So today is day 20. You may begin as the day goes on to hear some chicks beginning to pip inside of the shells. So if you're very, very quiet in your classroom where the incubators are, you can probably begin to hear those chicks inside making that pip, 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 pip sound as they're coordinating hatching out today. You might even have one early bloomer that will start to crack and come out of their shell at some point, either this evening or overnight. So that way, when you come in tomorrow, you may have one or two babies in that incubator waiting to say hello in the morning. I'm so excited. I know y'all are excited too. All right. Well, very good. So by now, you should have your brooder box all ready and set for your babies. Inside your brooder box, you should have your automatic waterer and your automatic feeder set up for them to go into. All right. So there's a couple of things that I do want to show you, and I'm going to share my screen with you. This is the embryology page that is set up for you on the website. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of that web page, you'll see that it says, now that you have chicks, then the next thing we have to do is you all have to be the mother hen. And you have to think about all the things that a mother hen would think about when raising their young. And that's what you need to know. When a mama hen has hatchlings, like these baby chicks, they want to keep them protected under their wings and under their feathers because a baby chick cannot regulate its own body temperature when it is born. It can only begin regulating its body temperature after it gets its feathers. And a baby chick doesn't get its feathers for about 2.5 to 3 weeks. At that point, it has grown so much, and you can then have it outside without giving it some type of heat source. And I'm going to show you that in our brooder box in just a second, and I'm sure you all have a brooder box as well. So here is a video from my friend Hannah, who is a 4-H agent in Dinwiddie, who does a great demonstration on setting up a brooder box. And then there's a video about how to look at the feathers of your chick to tell which sex it is. And we call that sexing the chicks, to separate the roosters from the hens and to know how many we have. All right. And then there's a brooder publication there for you teachers, just to give you a little bit of information on that. All righty. So let me admit some folks that are in the waiting room here. All right. So raise your hand if you have, I can see Ms. Irving's class and Ms. Mason's class. Raise your hand if you all have your brooder box set up with your light and a waterer and a feeder. All right. Good job, Ms. Irving. Good job, Ms. Mason. Super, super fantastic. You guys are well on your way then. So I know you're ready for your baby chicks. So let's talk about the brooder box. All right. So I'm going to walk over to where my brooder box is so that way you all can see what's going on over there. Does everybody see my brooder box? And as you see, I have my brooder box on the floor, so there's no chance of the chicks tipping it over or knocking it down if I have it elevated and set up high somewhere. We want to make sure that our chicks are going to be safe and protected. So my brooder box is on the floor. Now, I took an idea from Parkway Elementary. Their librarian had these puppy pads that she used to put in the bottom of her brooder box to make for easier cleanup. So here in my brooder box, let me raise it up a little bit just so you can see it. You'll see that the puppy pad is right there underneath, and that makes for easy cleanup, and it also will make it safe for your chicks. Sorry, my phone is ringing and going off. So that's under here. You can use newspaper to go under your brooder box under here to make for easy cleanup because they will poop quite a bit. So you can put newspaper under there and put your shavings on top of it. You can also use shredded paper to go on top. I have pine shavings just like you all have. I have the shavings. I gave you guys the smaller ones because they'll be more absorbent with your baby chicks. The other thing you're going to need to have for your brooder box is a heat source. So the heat source that I have is a light. And so that light, as you see, is mounted up nice and secure with some heavy weights, and it is pointed down at my brooder box. So remember what I said, those baby chicks can't regulate their own body temperature when they're born, so they have to have something to keep them warm in place of the mama hen. Now, one thing we have to make sure of is that we don't get it too hot in the brooder box. So the temperature that you want to maintain in your brooder box is 95 degrees, okay? 95 degrees. So how do we tell how hot it is inside of our brooder box? Well, we put a thermometer in there. And so I have two different types of thermometers here. I have the same thermometer that I use in one of my incubators, and that tells me the temperature and the humidity. Humidity is not important at this point. So this is telling me that I am right about 95. And then this other one that's corded right here is another thermometer that I don't have to keep in there. It's actually outside of the incubator with the cord. The monitor is inside. So you see right now it is at 91 degrees inside of my incubator, and it depends on where I put it by the light. So you see it gets more intense as you get closer to the light that's up there, and it's very warm. So you want to make sure you don't have it too hot, because if your chicks get too hot, they will get dehydrated, and then they will get something called pasty butt. Pasty butt is where when the chicken poops from their vent hole, of course, from their butt, the poop will be so dry and sticky that it'll stick to their actual body, and it will clog up their vent hole, and that will kill our chicks. So we want to make sure that we keep the temperature as close to 95 as possible. Okay, depending on what kind of heat source or that you're using, you can always move your box either further away or closer to your light to adjust the heat inside of there for your chicks. And if you watch the behavior of your chicks, you'll also be able to tell if they're getting too hot or too cold. So when they're in your box, if they start spreading out everywhere, then most likely they're too hot. But if you see them bunching up and gathering together in one clump, they're too cold. So you want to make sure that you're keeping the temperature regulated in here. Now, there's a couple of other things that you need to have in your brooder for your chicks. This is my automatic feeder. I've got my feed in here, and everyone receives some feed. So when you turn that over, you'll notice that you've got feed inside at the bottom, and the chicks will peck through the little hole to get to the feed inside. They won't eat the first day, so don't expect them to eat the first day. They probably won't go to food until the second day. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your feed, your water, and your food in two different locations inside of your brooder box. Make sure you don't put your water, your automatic waterer, under the light in your brooder box, because if you do, you're literally heating up the water to 95 degrees, and the baby chicks don't need that. All right, so this automatic waterer, I'm going to screw the top off because I'm not going to put this in there until the chicks get in there. You see, this is where your bottle goes in, and there's a very tiny lip around it here where the water will come out. It's very small, and this is the type of lip that prevents your baby chicks from drowning in the water. They will climb all over top of stuff, and they want to be posted up on it, just the way chickens are, and they'll poop and do all kinds of things. So it's really important to make sure that their water is always clean, and that you'll have to probably clean this a couple of times just depending on how bad they soil that. So I'm going to keep my waterer here where it is not in the direct light coming down from our heat lamp. Okay, now your chicks will be small. Depending on how many you have hatch out in your classroom, you want to make sure your container matches the size of the chicks. Okay, so you don't want them too crowded and too bunched up in here. I don't have very many eggs that I'm hatching out in my office, so I have a small box here, but I can put a second box next to it if I need to, or get a bigger box or a bigger container to keep my baby chicks in. And like I said, today is day 20. So we really have a fully formed baby chick inside of our eggs in there. So when they come out, as this is day 20, and you'll see that they're absorbing the yolk right now. So that way he won't be hungry, or they won't be hungry once they come out. Tomorrow is the big day because it is day 21, and that is about the time for those chicks to start hatching. So now that I've moved it around, you'll see the temperature has gone up to 91.8. So it's slowly adjusting to be the right temperature for our babies. And I'm going to keep that on all day today. So that way, if one does decide to hatch out, I can put him or her, a rooster or a hen, inside of there, and it'll help them to dry out as well. So I am back at my desk now. So if you want to pin me in the middle, you are more than welcome to do so. All right. So let's take some questions. There's not a whole lot for us to talk about yet until those chicks come out. So, someone already had a chick to hatch out this morning around lunch. That is on base at Little Creek at their Child Youth Program Center on base. So they've got one already this morning. Thank you, Melissa. Um, I'm interested to know how many chicks does everyone think they will have to hatch out to. So Kim said that they have 29 and 18 are good to go. So let's see if we have some surprises in there. They checked their eggs and they look like they may have about 5 that are viable. Maggie, who is a homeschool group, and they're doing this project, they have already heard 2 pips coming from inside the egg. So this is so exciting. Yay. Let me tell you one other thing now that we know we have some chicks that are coming out. The first thing you need to know, the first chicks, the earliest chicks to hatch are going to be your strongest, most fittest chicks that you have in your bunch. Be careful and watch them, okay? And make sure they're not going to bully the other chicks. Because they're the strongest, nature has a way of eliminating any creature that has issues with its DNA or genetics. And so your strong chicks will bully and attack and beat up any late blooming or late hatching baby chicks. Okay. It doesn't mean those baby chicks should be assassinated before they come out of their egg. So you really have to watch them and be mindful of that. All right. So take your stronger chicks, set them aside in a different container or a different brooder box from the chicks that are coming out later. All right. They'll be happier with the ones that they hatch together with, but at the later time you can introduce them together after the chicks have all hatched and they're all dried off and fluffy. So when your chick first hatches, it's going to be wet and it's going to be extremely tired, okay? Because breaking out of that shell is very hard work. So what you do when it hatches, let it stay in your brooder until you start to see the down feathers dry off. Now, if that chick begins to attack the other eggs and really starts to disturb the environment inside of your incubator, go ahead and take that chick out and put him in your brooder box. And he will finish drying off in your brooder box and you can watch him because he'll do more sleeping than anything else, just like a baby, an infant. All right. And as they begin to hatch, they'll talk to the other eggs that are in there, but it's really not good for a baby chick to be alone, isolated by itself. So you do want to at least keep them in pairs or groups of 3 at the very least inside of the brooder box, okay? So in the incubator, the heat in there will keep them warm, and that's good enough to keep them warm, and it'll also help them to dry out their down, all right? And again, they can also dry off in the brooder box, especially if they get to roughhousing and being a little rough inside of the incubator with the other eggs, all right? Important thing is make sure they're not bullying the other chicks because these little baby chicks can be pretty mean. And you all know what bullying is, and you know what bullying looks like, and you know how bad being bullied feels. So we'd want to protect our baby chicks from any other chick that is going to bully them. Okay? All right. Any questions? All right, let me go to our chat box over here. So Kim said 29, 18 are looking good. Mini chirps and two cracks are with Maggie and the homeschool group. So are we to remove them while the others are hatching? Yes, Bianca. So if you have 12 in there and two have already come out and they're, rolling around and knocking into the other eggs and they're kind of, go ahead and take those two out of the incubator and put them in your brooder box. We don't want them to damage and hurt the other chicks before they have a chance to hatch and come out. How long do chicks stay in the incubator before moving to brooder? Watch their behavior first and see how rambunctious they are being inside the brooder. If they are really stumbling and moving around and knocking into the other eggs, go ahead and take them out and put them in the brooder. Typically, you can leave them in your brooder until they're about halfway dried out with their down feathers, and then you can put them in the brooder and they'll huddle up under the light. Again, they will go to water when they're ready. They came from a very wet environment inside the egg, so they will move and gravitate towards water. If they do not go towards water, you can show them where the water is by simply picking up the baby chick very gently. So if we'll use my happy salmon. So if my happy salmon is a baby fish or a baby chick, you just pick up that little baby chick, okay? And if this is the baby chick's beak right here, you just want to wet it, just wet the tip of the beak with your waterer and set your baby chick down. And you might have to do that once or twice so that they know that's where water is. And you only need to do 2 or 3 of the baby chicks that way. Once they realize that's water and that's where the water is, they'll keep going to it and drinking. The other chicks will follow the leader. All right. And so when they see those chicks going to water, all the other ones will go to water too. And they'll do the same thing with the food. Okay. All right. Let me go to the chat box. Um, We had 5 or 6 not viable and about 5 that were just growing slower. Okay, so that means you might have some chicks that will probably hatch out on Friday, and that's normal. If you're worried that you do have a batch of just slow developing late bloomers, then you may want to take your incubator home with you over the weekend, because I realize it's the end of the week, but you may have to take your incubator home with you Friday after school if they haven't come out, to see if they'll hatch at home over the weekend. Okay. And all you have to do is unplug the incubator, keep the lid on it, and try not to, rock it and disturb it as much on your drive home. And it should keep it warm enough and not have too dramatic of a temperature fall or humidity fall during that time, that will disturb anything going on inside, because it should be hatching time. If you haven't had any hatch out by Sunday, they're probably not going to hatch out. Okay. So between Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's really iffy. If by Monday you don't have the majority hatch out, then you can go ahead and turn your incubator off and go with the chicks that you have. All right. So, okay. So that was a question that was in there. What happens if they hatch Friday, but I don't come to work on Monday? Take your incubator home. Yep, you can take your incubator home. That is a-okay. And when I'd set up the time frame for this for the project, I saw that it was close to the end of the week, but I know I wanted you guys to have some time in the classroom with the chicks. So that's why we started when we started. So if you have any issues with that over the weekend, or if you get nervous on Friday about it and you don't know what to do, just let me know. And if need be, I'll come over and grab your incubator, and I'll hatch them out over the weekend for you, or leave them in the office here or something. We'll work it out. Just let me know. So the humidity, you want to keep that humidity high until your last chick hatches. So keep that humidity high. So if you remember, when we dissected the eggs, there's that membrane that's inside that they have to break through to get to the air cell. If that membrane is dried, and the drier it gets, remember the heat is constant in there, so it'll constantly be losing moisture. So you need to keep the humidity high, because if it starts to dry out, that membrane shrinks up and will squeeze the life out of the baby chick. So keep your humidity high until the last chick has hatched. Of course, if it doesn't hatch, and it's Sunday and all the other ones have come out, most likely it's not going to hatch. And please dispose of any eggs that don't hatch safely and appropriately. I would not just put them in your trash can in the classroom, because that could lead to foul smells. And you definitely do not want to return to your classroom on Monday to any foul smelling chicks or eggs in the trash can. So be kind to your custodians and put them in a bag and dispose of them outside the building, and especially where, no animal or anything can get to that. Any other questions? I can't wait to see pictures and photographs and get reports back from how many chicks hatched. On Monday, I will send out a evaluation to you all, so that way I can capture some of the data and information from you. All right, how often do you need to change the bottom of Brooder, the box with the newspaper? It depends on how many chicks you have in there, really. If you only have 1 or 2 chicks, you can probably keep it in there longer, but you don't want it to be so super saturated and soiled with poop, because then, of course, that's going to start affecting the health of your chicks and the smell of your classroom. So you might need to change it every other day, just to be on the safe side if you see it's a lot of poop piling up in there, depending on how many chicks you have. That's a good question. You're very welcome. And you can keep, you don't have to pile any shavings up, super high on the bottom of your boxes either, because the chicks aren't going to be but like this tall when they come out. And so you only really need about maybe a quarter to a half an inch of covering on the bottom for them. It doesn't have to be very deep. It just needs to be absorbent, so that way, you're managing your poop well. Poop management is very important. And they'll sleep and stuff all over the place. So if you notice that their feed is getting really dirty, then consider changing that out earlier, if it's earlier than the schedule that you want to do. Yes, next week I will have a Zoom set up on, I believe, Wednesday, either Tuesday or Wednesday. I sent out an email to everyone letting you know that. And if you want me to send you a direct link to that Zoom, you can send me an email. I'll put my email address in the chat box for you. So if you want a direct link to register for the sexing Zoom, just let me know. And I think I do have that set up for Wednesday of next week at 1 o'clock. So, and I will do that for you, because we'll look at their wings. You can tell from their wing feathers the pattern that's on their wing feathers, whether it is a hen or a rooster. And there's also a video on the Embryology website as well, when you go to the very bottom, that is about determining the sex by using the wing test. All right, any other questions? There's not as much information to have out right now. You guys have done the work. You've done the hard part. Good job. Congratulations. Okay, so there's a question. Is it possible to see pipping today? Yes, it is possible to see pipping today. We've had one that is hatched at one location, and one of our homeschool groups have 2 that are pipping and have cracks on the shells, although they have not hatched all the way out yet. So it is very possible. I knew that today we would probably begin to see some activity. So keep your fingers crossed that something will happen this morning, or before you all leave school today. You should at least start to hear the sounds inside the eggs of them talking to each other. So if you're quiet and it happens, then you should be able to hear it. So you guys have to be kind to your teachers, all right? And keep the environment calm for these new babies as they launch themselves into the world. Good questions. All right, teachers, have your kids asked you any good questions that you would like for me to do my best to answer and give a little more information on? And by the way, there are all kinds of, there are a few different heaters that you can use in your brooders. There are some that are like a warming plate that you can raise higher or lower. You can even move it at an angle so chicks that are colder can move in closer if they want more heat, or move further away from that light source if they, want to be a little cooler. Or you can get the light that I have over here on my coop, and I'll show you the light bulb that comes with it. This one is meant for poultry, and it's called Producer's Pride, and it is a wrong side red heat bulb, and it is 2 packets, 120 volts, 250 watts. So it's waterproof, explosion proof. It has a brass base that minimizes corrosion or freezing. It comes with 2 bulbs, and you'll see that it's red. So that way you don't want to put really bright light in there to disrupt the sleep cycle with your babies. So the red is a much softer um, light for the chicks between night and day. It won't disturb them too much in their brooder box. So you can pick up these types of bulbs at the Tractor Supply. You can get them. You can probably get them at Walmart too. Any feed and seed store you want to get to. Oh, one other thing that I definitely want to talk to you all about is fire hazards over here on my coop. And I'll show you the light bulb that comes with it. This one is meant for poultry, and it's called Producer's Pride, and it is a wrong side red and 20 volts, 250 watts. So it's waterproof, explosion proof. It has the brass base that minimizes corrosion or freezing. It comes with 2 bulbs, and you'll see that it's red. So that way you don't want to put really bright light in there to disrupt the sleep cycle with your babies. So the red is a much softer um, light for the chicks between night and day. It won't disturb them too much in their brooder box. So you can pick up these types of bulbs at the Tractor Supply. You can get them. You can probably get them at Walmart too. Any feed and seed store you want to get to. Oh, one other thing that I definitely want to talk to you all about is fire hazards over here on my coop. And I'll show you the light bulb that comes with it. This one is meant for poultry, and it's called Producer's Pride, and it is a wrong side 2 packets, 120 volts, 250 watts. So it's waterproof, explosion proof. It has the brass base that minimizes corrosion or freezing. It comes with 2 bulbs, and you'll see that it's red. So that way you don't want to put really bright light in there to disrupt the sleep cycle with your babies. So the red is a much softer um, light for the chicks between night and day. It won't disturb them too much in their brooder box. So you can pick up these types of bulbs at the Tractor Supply. You can get them. You can probably get them at Walmart too. Any feed and seed store you want to get to. Oh, one other thing that I definitely want to talk to you all about is fire hazards over here on my coop. And I'll show you the light bulb that comes with it. This one is meant for poultry, and it's called Producer's Pride, and it is a wrong side 2 packets, 120 volts, 250 watts. So it's waterproof, explosion proof. It has the brass base that minimizes corrosion or freezing. It comes with 2 bulbs, and you'll see that it's red. So that way you don't want to put really babies. So the red is a much softer um, light for the chicks between night. Red heat bulb, day it won't disturb them too much in their brooder box. So you can pick up these types of bulbs at the Tractor Supply. You can get them. You can probably get them at Walmart too. Any feed and seed store you want to get to. Oh, one other thing that I definitely want to talk to you all about is fire hazards over here on my coop. And I'll show you the light bulb that comes with it. This one is meant for poultry, and it's called Producer's Pride, and it is a wrong side. 2 packets, 120 volts, 250 watts. So it's waterproof, explosion proof. It has the brass base that minimizes corrosion or freezing. It comes with 2 bulbs, and you'll see that it's red to disrupt the sleep cycle. So that way you don't want to put with your babies. So the red is a much softer um, light for the chicks between night. Red heat bulb, it won't disturb them too much in their brooder box. So you can pick up these types of bulbs at the Tractor Supply. You can get them. You can probably get them at Walmart too. Any feed and seed store you want to get to. Oh, one other thing that I definitely want to talk to you all about is fire hazards over here on my coop. And I'll show you the light bulb that comes with it. This one is meant for poultry, and it's called Producer's Pride, and it is a wrong side. 2 packets, 120 volts, 250 watts. So it's waterproof, explosion proof. It has the brass base that minimizes corrosion or freezing. It comes with 2 bulbs, and you'll see that it's red to disrupt the sleep cycle. So that way you don't want to put with your babies. So the red is a much softer um, light for the chicks between night. Red heat bulb, it won't disturb them too much in their brooder box. So you can pick up these types of bulbs at the Tractor Supply. You can get them. You can probably get them at Walmart too. Any feed and seed store you want to get to. Oh, one other thing that I definitely want to talk to you all about is fire hazards over here on my coop. And I'll show you the light bulb that comes with it. This one is meant for poultry, and it's called Producer's Pride, and it is a wrong side. 2 packets, 120 volts, 250 watts. So it's waterproof, explosion proof, corrosion or freezing. It comes with 2 bulbs, and you'll see that it's red to disrupt the sleep cycle. So that way you don't want to put with your babies. So the red is a much softer um, light for the chicks between night. Red heat bulb, it won't disturb them too much in their brooder box. So you can pick up these types of bulbs at the Tractor Supply. You can get them. You can probably